All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Back to the Game Sportscast. Trying to get the ball rolling. Thanks for tuning in. I'm actually making an episode today, trying to bang it out because I think in my last episode, if anyone saw it, they might think that I'm just a big-time LeBron hater, and I totally see how you might feel that way. But I think that there's also a lot of people who agree with me. Even in the mainstream media, you're starting to see people kind of, I think, fairly discuss the state of the NBA and the state and how much LeBron has had to do with that. I do still think that they beat around the bush a little bit. They try not to go too directly at it. But recently, I caught some of the, talking heads. The latest of sports media is such a big space now, and I'm having fun with it. And I want to play two clips from a couple of sports heads that I saw talking about it and their points that they brought up. And I kind of want to react to it and see how this goes for this episode and kind of expand on my point of view, what I meant when it came to LeBron James. So we're going to get into it right now. The first clip we got is from the very popular Nightcap show between Shannon Sharpe and Ochocinco. Those dudes have a lot of fun doing what they do, and I just want to play a quick bit from their discussion about LeBron choosing to sit out the All-Star game literally an hour before the game. And I'm just going to play it here and then some try to butt in a little bit with my running commentary. Feel free to, leave your comments and thoughts on what I had to say. But I think that there's some good points made here that I personally want to expand on. So let's check it out.
Didn't do that. Okay, do what Giannis did. Giannis says, I'm not going to play. And guess what? Trey got to come. Norman Powell would have got an opportunity to come.
I have a question, huh?
Yes.
What if it was a lingering issue and it didn't flare up until he got there?
Man, stop it, Ocho.
Exactly.
I'm asking a question. That's a possibility.
So what did he do to cause it to flare up?
Shit be acting up now when you hit your 40s now.
What did he do to cause it to linger? Did he play basketball in between Wednesday night and today?
He just played
Wednesday. He played Wednesday, remember?
Right, yeah.
So Thursday he was off, Friday he was off, Saturday he was off, Sunday he makes an announcement that he's not going to play an All-Star game. So I'm just trying to figure out what did he do in between Wednesday after the game and today that caused it to flare up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would text him and ask him, but I agree and disagree with you, honestly, because it is LeBron and the fact that he's made the All-Star for his 21st year, if I'm not mistaken.
21 straight starts.
21 straight, and he wanted to actually be there, even if he didn't play. And I think that's why he didn't pull out.
He could have. Giannis is.
See, I'm going to stop it right there. I think they expand for a little bit longer on the issue that, in my opinion, and this is a difference that I notice a lot between Shannon and Ochocinco. And to me, this is exactly why there's a difference between their careers as well. And why Shannon is a Hall of Famer and why Ochocinco is an incredible, funny, really charming personality. However, some would say he fell short of his potential on the field because he was an explosive, super talented player. But I feel like it's that mentality right there. That's the difference. What Ochocinco just said right there spoke to the idea that LeBron is too big for the game, that his legendary status as the person who he is, the king, someone who's played 20 years in the NBA, who's broken every single record, who's won championships, somehow he gets to say that he's bigger than the game. And sure, the games in June are much, much bigger than the All-Star break. We all know the All-Star break is a bit of a joke. It has become so. However, that wasn't always the case. There was a time in the NBA's history where the All-Star game was the only platform that if you were a great player in Portland, or you were a great player in Seattle, or you were a great player in some of the remote markets, along with the big markets, the All-Star game provided a platform for players to become more nationally known. So they would often show up, and although they wouldn't maybe go as hard as the NBA Finals, they would try to show out. And also, often the other players they were playing against, they weren't that familiar. Not like the players now where they all follow each other on Instagram and they all are friends and buddies. These guys saw them as actual competition. So now fast forward to today where we have the opinion that maybe LeBron has somehow earned the right to say that he's bigger than the game and sit out. You know, he started every year for 20 years. Okay, cool. But what if in this 21st start, there was a kid who never saw him play? Well, what if it's in this 21st start at the All-Star game, there's someone who's been saving, who's always wanted to go to All-Star weekend to support LeBron at All-Star weekend, and he doesn't even dress? Which to me is my biggest issue with the entire thing. He didn't even dress. Giannis dressed because I get the feeling to Giannis, it means something to be an All-Star. Now I get it. He's been a 20-time All-Star. Sure, it's devalued, but that's my problem with the entire thing and with the NBA as a whole. And with this crop of veteran NBA players, the message that they're sending to the generations behind them is, you deserve this. These people are lucky. So I'll get into that a little further, but I think that was a good point to highlight there in the opinions of some of the sports talking heads today. A lot of people think like Ocho does, where because you're a legend in the game, you're somehow bigger than the game. And I disagree. All right. So now I want to play a second clip of a refreshing moment in sports and in entertainment, sports talk. And I'll wrap up this episode, see how this goes. I think that might have an issue here that I didn't put on my headphones, and maybe now I'm going to have an issue with the sound. I'll figure it out. However, on First Take, a young man by the name of PK Subban, which he's apparently a former NHL hockey player. That's the one sport that I can't say I have extensive knowledge on, and I'm starting to actually regret that because I have always found it. I have gone to 2 hockey games back in college, really fun environments, and then I also find that hockey's in a unique position because they still have an underdog mentality. So their athletes, it seems to me, care a little more and play a little harder. And, well, First Take and all these shows don't cover hockey at all. But they were forced to because hockey's All-Star Game was a major hit. And it came right on the heels of the contrast between the NBA All-Star Game and their All-Star Game. And their seasons are always intertwined. They kind of have the same timeline. But there was a huge difference in the 2 All-Star games. And so it created this opportunity for PK to come on First Take and discuss why the NHL All-Star Game was such a success with viewership and with fans, and why the NBA wasn't. And I thought what he had to say was so refreshing to hear on the shows, especially First Take, because they tend to be so, let's just say, player friendly. Just like all the leagues, they really stop short of having any substantial opinion for the fear of coming across the wrong way, upsetting the wrong people, not keeping up with the narrative of sports. It was so refreshing to see someone come on here and have this kind of opinion. And they have these kind of moments on this show. The last one I would say was during while Caitlin Clark was a big debate in sports, which I had such a big opinion on and thought about starting this podcast so many times after watching some of those clips. I think that was the last time that I saw First Take really have an opinion that would come off unpopular with most people, but really it was right. So here's PK talking about why the difference between the NHL and the NBA and its players.
To me, it's offensive. As you guys saw in Get Up, obviously I was emotional about speaking because I'm speaking on behalf of the players, right? As a newly removed athlete out of the sport. And to me, it's offensive to my approach to the game, but also the players that I know, that I was around, that I idolized. It's offensive to the way that they approached the game. And in this sport, in hockey, you can't approach the game any other way because you will get hurt. It's not an option to go out and compete. It's not an option to be willing to fight. You have to do those things in our sport, and you have to do those every night. Now, The question is, why isn't that demand on the NBA players every night? I mean, that's a question I can't ask, because here's the reality. Does it come down to rule changes and what the NBA wants to do to protect themselves? No. I don't even give them that out. I'll go back to this. You know, obviously we know about Wilt Chamberlain and some of the guys that started earlier on before my time. But to me, the NBA took off with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They set the tone for Michael Jordan, then ultimately Kobe Bryant, then LeBron, Steph, KD, and all those guys now. But Larry Bird and Magic Johnson carved the path for Kobe, for Jordan, for LeBron. So for this generation now, my question is, are you carving a better path? Are you leaving a better league for the future of the NBA, or are you not? And that's why I'm all in on hockey. Because these guys, year after year, decade after decade, it's been a slow process in growing the game. Yes, it's not growing. It didn't grow as fast as we wanted to get to this point. But why is that? Because the team aspect. No one's bigger than the game. And I've had, coming into hockey, being a guy who has personality, different interests, I was up against that. But that's a strong part of the culture we don't want to change. And we might be the strongest in all the sports with the team aspect. But now what we're seeing is it all on this platform now. So for the NBA, my question is for those players, are you leaving a better league than what you came into? Because I'll tell you something, for KD, for LeBron, Steph, all the money that they're making came on the backs of Magic Johnson, of Larry Bird, of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all these guys. So, you know, you got to keep that in mind. How we value greatness. It's not just about rings, and it's not just about on the court. As an athlete, yeah, I value those things. But the reason why I followed Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant was because of their approach to their craft. They never took a day off. They left it all on the court. It didn't matter whether it was an exhibition game or a playoff game. I don't know. That's the standard of greatness for me in every sport. So when I see players doing it that don't have the talent, maybe aren't superstars, I'm willing to pay for that. But here's the thing about hockey. We got the stars. And guess what? They're on the ice. They're giving everything they have every night, no matter what we're doing. So that's got to be the standard for greatness across sports for me.
I mean, I had to let him go, and I'll play when I do these. I'll play most of these videos on 1.5, try to get to him. But I had to let the man go because he went off, and that's kind of the level I strive to do this at. So big ups to PK there. Didn't know who he was before this, but now I am a big fan because he's absolutely right. And this is not a judgment either way. I think the biggest problem is almost the most unsolvable problem, because then you would be asking to get rid of the core center of the entire business model. And I just think that the biggest problem that the NBA has is the amount of money these kids are making. They are making so much money that none of it matters. You know, it doesn't matter if you lose the NBA finals. It doesn't matter if you make the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you become an all-star when you have that much money. So I think there is a threshold, almost a pendulum of balance between how much money you make as an athlete and how much you care. And I think part of why a lot of athletes back in the day cared more, because the money was, none of them were really making that much. So what really gave your equity and your value was really based on how you played on the court and how much you gave. And I think hockey still has that. Maybe hockey gets to that popularity state where they're making the kind of money that the NBA has made. But I do think that the NBA does have a problem on its hands that it's going to be very difficult to solve, because they've taken their eye off making sure that players understand the history of where they got from. They've allowed players to dominate the headlines, dominate how they operate with free agency. And in many ways, rightfully so. But it's gone so far, and now most of the players in the league couldn't probably tell you much about the history of the game and who became before them and why certain rules were changing, why players back then were just as skilled as the ones today. It was just a different game. No, to them and everything that they've been told by all the talking heads, by all the media, by all the people around them, and then by the money that they make, is that they're the greatest basketball players that have ever lived, and basketball has never been better, and how dare you question anything about our effort. And so basketball just has a culture thing, an entitlement thing. And I think I'm not going to try to add too much to what PK said here, because he absolutely nailed it. Anything that I would say would just to be reiterating what he said. And I'm just happy to see the media starting to evolve and having a more well-rounded opinion on these things. And I wish they weren't so afraid to go all the way in. The players are, and I think it just starts, and this is why I think I have such healthy animosity. It's nothing personal towards the what LeBron represents as a athlete and as a legend of the game. Is that the question is for him and for Kevin Durant and for Steph Curry, which I think Steph Curry less so, because I don't think Steph Curry has never been unauthentic, and he's actually the one player I would say from this generation. And it's because of how he came up. Small school kid, overlooked. He's never been ungrateful for his opportunity. And him just being in Golden State his entire career and adjusting to through the good and the bad, and adjusting through whatever stars they throw his way, speaks a lot to me about his leadership and how much he respects and loves the game. And not that LeBron does not love the game, but I do get the sense that at time he believes he's bigger than the game. And I wonder what MJ thinks about that. I wonder what Kobe would say. The fervor, the competitiveness, the understanding that what you get to do, no matter how good you are at it, is a privilege. That's it. Like, these fans aren't lucky to come see you play. You're lucky to play for them. And I don't think that is being understood by the modern day NBA player. Hearing Anthony Edwards say he doesn't care to be a role model. I mean, Charles Barkley said that once and kind of lived to regret it, and eventually did become a role model. But listen, it doesn't matter if you want to or not. You have chosen to do something that influences people, so you have no other choice. And so all the fans want is for you to try and for you to play hard and for it to appear like you care more than we do. And that's why football's number one. That's why NHL is having this moment, is because in those two sports, the culture of the sport is the players care and they try hard. And the NFL is starting to lose a little bit of that with the individualizing of athletes, but it's just too big of a monster. And the nature of the sport is so team orientated. And so basketball, they got to make some technical rule changes. Just to the aesthetic of the game is very difficult to watch, but the mentality of the players involved really has to evolve too. I think they're really starting to see themselves as more than basketball players, and they are. We are all more than whatever it is that we do, but they're starting to lose touch with the fact that it is basketball that is offering you this opportunity, that's giving you this opportunity to be at the stage that you're at. And if you do not honor that, if you do not give your best every single time you play, then we will see that and we will repel that, and fans will stop watching, or you'll get critiqued all of the time. And so what good is all of that money you're making? Sure, you're providing for your family if your legacy is not on point. And that's my question for the NBA. Do they even care about legacy anymore? Are players just here for the money and, got the genetic lottery and moving forward? Anyway, those were two takes that I saw that really, really stuck with me. I'm going to try to do some more of these reaction videos kind of to substantiate my opinion. I know that just me talking to the camera probably isn't the most ideal referencing. I'll get better with the in-video stuff, but yeah, I think that the NBA is missing the plot. They've lost the plot. The All-Star Game has never been that big of a deal, but it is. You're being named one of the best NBA players in the world, and so approach that with its proper respect. It's all we're asking. We're not asking for much, just a little bit of effort. Anyway, that's my take. I think it is what it is. Thanks for watching another episode of Back to the Sportscast. Catch you on the next one. Peace.